During the tests that we see, when we have the buff, we actually do run longer. At the end of this, I'll be giving a little bit of statistical analysis. It's nothing too impressive. And when we do it without the buff, we don't. We last a slightly less amount of time with running. The real reason why I think this would be interesting would be that if it was an actual flat 15% buff, if you were just running away from something or chasing something, having 50% stamina decay would infer that you'd be running 15% longer, right? Which means if you can travel 100 meters, you now travel 115 meters, which means that you could see a weird meta evolving where you could accept the 10% less stamina regeneration, as I'm fairly sure the main meta is just to stack on stamina regen, especially with Kano, especially with Dino. Or if you want to heal faster with combat, and you're very, very secure with your ability to end the fight before your stamina goes down, you want to get health regen, just so you can quickly get back into the next fight. You could then see a weird meta evolving with this, where you could choose to ignore that, as I just said, and focus on the fact that when you're pursuing something, you're able to outrun them. Or even defensively, if you can run 15% faster than the Kano chasing you, you're able to make that little bit of distance. And I'm sure that you could do a test if this actually was a 15% buff, which is not. I'll give you a spoiler, it's about 3.38%. I'll explain at the end. You could basically make it so that you could work out whether or not that 10% decrease in stamina regeneration actually impacts the amount of distance you can keep making with that extra stamina, right? Because if you let them regain their stamina for about 10 seconds, both of them, and then start running again, the second one will still run further. So you could effectively outrun the fellow Kano that's chasing you by the fact that you're able to just marathon it. You just keep running further and further and further. For now, it doesn't look like that, and then in the statistical analysis, you'll be able to see why. I don't know why it's not 15%. I don't know why the devs just can't do it. Peace out, like, subscribe, I'll do some other tests. Go away. So here we are looking at the results from the Pterodon stamina test. We have the base stamina without any of the buffs, which was 53.47 seconds in order to deplete all of our stamina from 100%. Which means that per second, we're draining 1.87% of our stamina. The expected buff would mean that we've been running for 61 seconds, 61.5 if you round it up, right? Which therefore means that per second we'd be decaying 1.6% of our stamina. The actual result that we got was 55.31, which obviously isn't this number. So I've been trying to work out where this 15% buff actually is. I don't know. But it clearly exists, because I timed it all pretty well, and there is an increase. So the stamina decay here is 1.8. So 0.7 has been taken off, which isn't equal to 15% at all. The actual difference is 3.38%, which is, a fifth, almost, of what we should be expecting. I'm not sure where this result is. The only thing I can infer is that the devs have a different way of calculating stamina decay per second, and then they take 15% off of that, and that's what gives this number. So all in all, this isn't a 15% buff the way that we would see it. You would, in a way, you could see that if you were just running in a straight line, or even just running in general, non-stop, you would see a 15% stamina decay buff to be, you have 15% more stamina. This might just be me who sees it this way, but that's how it kind of sounds to me. And then you have this, which means this isn't really worth it, except for like a really niche situation. Like let's say, for example, that this was like the Tenno's running speed, or the Utah's, which we know is about 110 seconds, right? Of course, Utah travels faster, so it travels further. You could make an inference where this buff obviously is going to be bigger the bigger the number is, because 3.3% of 110 is going to be much bigger than of 53. You could make the inference where if you were a Utah being chased by another Utah, in Utah versus Utah conflict, you would be able to run for an additional, 5 actually trying to work this out in my head quickly. 3% of 110. Why am I so bad at maths right now? 3% of 110 would be... My brain says it's around like 7 seconds. So you'd be able to last a little bit longer. But, it's not really that great. So maybe someone who understands math can better guide me on this. Because I'm not seeing the 15% anywhere. But yeah, it's not worth it. That's what I'd say. Unless you really want to spec into that niche situation, it's not worth it at all. I don't even think it's worth it for something like Kano to be able to run for a bit longer. You'd rather just have the stamina regeneration. So yeah, it is technically a buff, but it's not the 15% as far as I can tell. So if someone can make sense of that, please help me out.